By 2023, the number of people living in the US without legal status reached a record, 14 million. That's roughly the size of Los Angeles, Chicago, and Dallas combined, living and working inside this country's economy and communities. Nearly 5.6% of America's workforce, about 9.7 million people, were undocumented in 2023. They work in farms, construction sites, restaurants, caregiving, and some healthcare roles. That keeps essential supply chains and services running. Yet, there is friction. Local hospitals, school districts, and public services in high concentration states report heavier demand. Policymakers, budget offices, and hospitals are weighing the costs of emergency care, schooling, and services. Across the world, governments have tried quick fixes, mass sweeps, sudden raids, or ad hoc expulsions. Those responses often strain logistics and cause chaos. The US is trying a different path. A large, planned enforcement infrastructure, financed and organized at scale. This approach is described in news and budget reports as a major multi-billion-dollar build-out. At the center are two agencies, ICE and its enforcement arm, ERO. Under recent policies, their operations have scaled. Arrest and detentions rose through 2025, and detention capacity is being expanded. That raises questions we'll answer in this video. Can a nationwide enforcement system this big be precise enough to work without breaking hospitals, agriculture, and classrooms? Stick around. We'll show how it's meant to run and where it could go wrong. Let's start with the scale. In 2021, the best estimate put the unauthorized population around approximately 10.5 million. By 2023, that estimate rose to 14 million, the fastest recorded two-year increase in decades. That kind of change stresses local systems fast. Of those 14 million, about 9.7 million were working, roughly 5.6% of the US labor force. They are concentrated in agriculture, construction, hospitality, and caregiving, jobs that are hard to replace overnight. Geography matters. 6 states, California, Texas, Florida, New York, New Jersey, and Illinois, hold over half of the country's undocumented population. Local budgets in these states feel the pressure first. This is a double-edged reality. On one side, undocumented workers sustain critical sectors. On the other, some local governments and hospitals say emergency and uncompensated care costs are significant and must be tracked. So the big question now, when you try to manage or remove people at this scale, how do you do it without crashing systems that depend on those workers, like food production, construction, or elderly care? Next, we look at the government's plan. Policymakers responded with a large-scale plan. Public reporting describes a multi-year, roughly $170 billion enforcement package. This is framed as a structural approach, money for border infrastructure, detention capacity, personnel, transport, and technology. Reported funding priorities in coverage and budget summaries include approximately $46.5 billion proposed for border infrastructure, approximately $45 billion for detention expansion, reported plans to reach up toward 100,000 beds, and significant increases for ICE operations and related court and transport capacity. News reporting references multi-year ramping of enforcement budgets. For perspective, the combined technology and personnel investments reported would push ICE's operating capacity towards levels that, by some comparisons, approach defense budgets of some smaller NATO countries. That's why experts call this a megaproject. It's a logistics build-out, not a short-term raid. How would it work on paper? Officials and reporting describe a system built around 3 pillars: data and targeting, detention and processing capacity, and transport logistics. The aim is to replace reactive sweeps with a standing operational pipeline. Plans look solid on paper, but can a project this large be run without major bottlenecks or unintended consequences? Up next, how this machine actually runs, step by step. Now let's look at the machine in action. Think of it as a high-security filtration grid. Data in, signals checked, steps confirmed, people sorted according to the law. Each stage is designed to keep errors down and logistics steady. Step A. Investigation and tracing. It begins with data. Homeland Security investigations and ICE track millions of records: visa overstays, fingerprints, flight logs, workplace authorizations. Computers now use AI dashboards to scan thousands of records per hour, like radar screens picking up unusual signals. Each blip becomes a potential case. Step B. Identification and surveillance. Once flagged, ICE agents confirm identity. They cross-check databases, verify documents, and sometimes do workplace audits or quiet home visits. This step matters. Past investigations found rare cases where US citizens were mistakenly detained. Around 1,480 potential citizens released between 2012 to 2018. That's why double checks are critical. Step C. Arrest operations. When the case is confirmed, arrests are carried out. Usually early mornings at homes or workplaces when situations are calmest. Officials say the goal is speed and safety, not disruption. Pressure is rising. In 2025, ICE has aimed for up to 3,000 arrests per day, compared to around 1,055 per day in August. That's like filling a sports arena every 2 weeks. Step D. Detention pipeline. From there, detainees enter ICE's network of over 200 detention facilities, about the size of a mid-sized US city, but dedicated entirely to intake, holding, and legal processing. Medical care, food, hearings, and transport logistics must all work in sync. Step E. Transport and deportation. Finally comes transport. ICE charters flights through contractors, sometimes called ICE Air by observers. Reports show costs running up to $25,000 per flight hour, and since 2020 there have been tens of thousands of deportation flights. That makes this one of the largest charter operations in the country, larger than many regional airlines. This is the system: investigation, identification, arrest, detention, and deportation. But how unique is this? Around the world, nations face the same challenge. Some sweep, some raid. Let's see how America compares. Zooming out, we see very different models in play. Saudi Arabia, mass waves. In Saudi Arabia, enforcement often comes in large sweeps. In one campaign, nearly 1 million people were deported in a single year. The problem? Capacity couldn't keep up. Housing, paperwork, and flights jammed the system, creating bottlenecks and humanitarian concerns. Malaysia, raids without infrastructure. In Malaysia, enforcement is carried out through periodic raids at factories, sites, and neighborhoods. Thousands are removed quickly, but without long-term infrastructure, raids strain facilities and leave gaps in oversight. This model works in bursts, not in steady operations. Mexico, checkpoints and sweeps. Mexico uses road checkpoints and sweeps to intercept flows from Central America. Soldiers and police check IDs and sometimes return people immediately. It's direct, but reactive, not built as a permanent machine. Contrast with the US. The US strategy is different. Instead of episodic sweeps, America is building a standing infrastructure. With $170 billion earmarked, detention expansion toward 100,000 beds, and a global charter system for deportation. Where others use temporary brooms, the US is trying to build an engineered assembly line. But any system this big has critics. Protests, oversight reports, and mistakes show the risks of scale. Let's take a balanced look. Big projects spark big reactions. Immigration enforcement is no different. In August and September 2025, demonstrations erupted in Washington, D.C. and Los Angeles during enforcement pushes. Interestingly, tracking showed arrests actually dipped in August, averaging just over 1,055 per day, while protesters accused ICE of overreach. Reports also show rare but serious mistakes. A Los Angeles Times review found about 1,480 potential U.S. citizens released from ICE detention between 2012 and 2018. One example, Peter Sean Brown, a U.S. citizen in Florida, mistakenly held for deportation before being released. These cases highlight why accurate ID checks are vital. Government watchdogs have flagged issues too. A 2025 GAO report urged stronger medical oversight and complaint tracking. DHS's Office of Inspector General has previously cited problems in specific detention facilities. Agencies say they are updating training, audits, and data systems in response. Yet, it's not all controversy. ICE's own 2024 report shows 113,431 administrative arrests, many tied to criminal records. And Homeland Security investigations, another ICE arm, continues work against smuggling and trafficking. Supporters argue the system reduces crime and enforces the law. Critics say it risks overreach. So, protests, mistakes, oversight, and successes. The reality is a complex machine under pressure, which brings us to the ultimate question. Can the US remove millions without cracking agriculture, food service, or construction? Can ICE keep precision, avoiding mistakes, and protecting civil rights? Or will the system buckle under its own weight? And now, it's your turn. Drop your thoughts below. Should America keep scaling this system or slow down? What safeguards would you strengthen first? ID checks, detention oversight, or transport capacity? And if 5.6% of the workforce vanished, would you expect wages to rise or shortages to hit? If this breakdown helped you see the bigger picture, share it with a friend who needs the context. And don't forget to subscribe to Megaprojects Uncovered, where we explain the world's boldest infrastructure, defense, and engineering projects. Thank you for investing your time today. I deeply appreciate your attention. See you in the next episode, where we'll uncover another megaproject shaping our world.